Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the relationship advice subreddit. The post is titled, "I adopted my little sister after our parents passed away. My GF isn't excited about it. Last month, when my parents were driving back from my uncle's house outside the city, they encountered a moose on a remote road in the forest. My father, who was driving, swerved at high speed and crashed into a tree. They both died at the scene. Because it was not a frequently used road, they were only discovered the next day by a passerby. My sister has been staying with my grandmother, who I'm not particularly fond of. She would hit me when I was a kid, most of the time deservedly so, but often it was unjustified. My grandmother said she doesn't want to adopt my sister, so the next option was me. I agreed without question. We are very close, and in the end, she's my family, and I love her to the ends of the earth. My sister moved in with my girlfriend 2 weeks ago. Obviously, she is very traumatized from what happened to our parents. We were both very close to them. They were great people. She still doesn't talk much, only to me and sometimes to my girlfriend. We take her to therapy twice a week, and there have been improvements, even in such a short amount of time. Yesterday, after I stayed with my sister in her bed until she fell asleep, I went to my room with my girlfriend. She said we need to talk about our situation. She pointed out that we don't really have time for each other since my sister moved in. It's a fair point. We've only had sex once since then, and that was when my sister was away. Even then, I wasn't really into it at all. My girlfriend suggested that I reconsider the adoption and maybe hand my sister over to my uncle and aunt. I refused because they are already busy as it is. My uncle isn't allowed to work due to a heart condition, and since he didn't work long before being diagnosed, his disability fund isn't very large. My aunt works at a retirement home, which obviously doesn't pay well. They also pay for my cousin's university expenses while juggling care for my younger cousin, who is only 5. My girlfriend is in her last year of university, so we don't have much money either. Fortunately, I found a job in my field after university that pays pretty well, but it's been tough financially. Soon enough, I will start receiving funds from the government for adopting my sister. My girlfriend said she isn't ready to become a mother, and that having all these responsibilities as a parent is overwhelming for her, which I can understand. It has indeed put a significant strain on our relationship. Before this, we would get back from work and university and enjoy our evenings together. Now, we have to pick my sister up from school, drive her to therapy, and take care of her when she's home since she doesn't like being alone. I told her that while she makes valid points, all of that goes out the window when it comes to my sister. I can't just abandon her because it's not easy. It won't be easy for anyone involved. I have to write it out even if she doesn't have to face this responsibility. Perhaps it wasn't the right thing to say because it set her off. She then asked me who I would choose between her and my sister. I didn't answer, and we got into a bit of a verbal fight, after which I went to sleep on the couch. I ended up breaking down from everything that has been going on lately. I should add that my girlfriend and I have been together for 9 years. She knew my parents and they loved her. She also knows my sister from birth, and I can't understand how she could make me choose between them. I love both of them and don't want to lose either. I think I need advice on what to do or say to my girlfriend because I'm at a loss. Edit. I also want to add, because people seem to think that I just suddenly took my sister without even talking to my girlfriend, that's not the case. We discussed it at length, and she said that we need to bring my sister home to us no matter what. That's why I was really surprised by what she had to say. Edit 2. I want to thank everyone for the great advice and for all the condolences. Even though we're all strangers here, seeing words of encouragement is impactful and helpful. Thank you. Update. I'm taking my sister to therapy shortly. After I get back home, my girlfriend and I will talk about all this. Update 2. We ended up talking about it for a while, and this is how it went down. At first, my girlfriend apologized profusely for the other night. She said she acted like a spoiled child and that it wasn't acceptable at all. I told her that I still love her the same, even though what she said was hurtful. I explained that it's a huge adjustment for her and that she doesn't need to be a mother, just a friend or big sister to my sister. I don't want to push any responsibilities on her. I suggested that if she'd like, we could both take a break from each other to process this, but she refused. She said she had already processed it and admitted that what she said resulted from everything changing so quickly. She realized she was in the wrong. She expressed regret for what she said almost immediately, but thought the damage was done and was scared I would break up with her because of it. Next, she told me that she didn't mean to make me pick between them. She acknowledged that if someone posed her that question in a similar situation, she would drop them, and she was thankful I withheld that decision until we had a chance to talk about it. She explained that her feelings arose from feeling distance from me and jealousy over how much time I was spending with my sister instead of her. However, she understands why it's necessary for me to take care of my sister while she's hurting. She expressed a desire to help me with that as much as possible and wants to support me through this. She admitted that for the past 13 years, I've been her everything, and during those 2 weeks, she thought she was losing me, which terrified her. After talking with some of her close friends, she realized that she wasn't losing me. Rather, a very important situation had arisen in my life that needed attention that had previously been mostly focused on her. She wants me to know that I can depend on her regarding responsibilities for my sister, and that she will do her best to be good to her. I can see this change. Compared to yesterday or the day before, my girlfriend really tried with my sister today. She initiated conversations with her and helped her with homework and picking out clothes before going to therapy. It felt like watching my girlfriend grow from being a child into an adult in just one day. I also admitted some of my faults, such as unintentionally neglecting her over the past few weeks. I realized this can impact a person, and I also acknowledged not giving her much of a say in whether my sister would come here to stay. We came up with a few things, namely that we must definitely go to therapy sooner rather than later. She suggested leaving my sister with my aunt and uncle for a few hours over the weekend while we sort that out. We also agreed that we need to balance our time more efficiently so we can have at least a bit more time to reconnect with each other. Then she told me that she's sorry for not helping me grieve or finding time to do so, and that our fight was a wake-up call for her regarding her lack of support through what has happened recently. She promised to do whatever she can to make up for her recent overstepping. At this point, the weight of the entire month hit me like a train. I cried a lot while she hugged me and offered words of reassurance and comfort, allowing me to release what I had been holding onto for the past month. This was the girlfriend I knew, a very caring person. I really hope that what she showed 2 days ago wasn't her true self, as some people are saying, but merely a reaction stemming from insecurity. I guess only time will tell. I think it was a positive step forward, and while there's still a lot more work to be done, it's a step in the right direction. When I came back home with my sister, we all played cards and I felt like we were a family. It was a good feeling. As I write this, I've put my sister to sleep, and today she didn't take much time at all to fall asleep. She pretty much drifted off after a forehead kiss and some cuddling. I'm in the living room on the couch right now. My girlfriend is taking a shower and we're planning to watch a movie together. Honestly, I'm thankful to everyone who gave me advice over the past few hours. I don't think I could have kept such a level head if so many hadn't offered different points of view and sound advice. One thing I learned from this ordeal is that communication, especially in times of stress like this, is vital. Before making important decisions, it's good to talk to your partner and see if they might have an explanation for their actions while also being ready for the worst. I went into the conversation with my girlfriend prepared to break up if her view hadn't changed because, like it or not, my sister is a priority for me right now. 2 days ago, my girlfriend didn't understand why and couldn't accept it. But after talking with her and explaining why I have to take care of my sister in this way, she now understands and accepts it. Once again, thanks to everyone who offered advice. While this is a great community, I hope I'm never in such a difficult position again where I have to ask for advice, though who knows what will happen in the future. User Hot Monkey Love said, "Your girlfriend has a choice, your sister doesn't." To this user Arcade said, "The really sad part in all of this is that the original poster is also grieving the death of both parents. However, because he has taken on the overwhelming responsibility of caring for his sister, his feelings are not even being discussed. If my partner lost both of her parents, I wouldn't be criticizing her for the lack of intercourse 30 days later. The request to choose was completely asinine." User Otto said, "Choose your sister. Your sister has no choice in this matter, while your girlfriend has the option to stay or leave." Under this comment, OP said the following, "Oh, I already know that if she makes me choose, I will stick with my sister. I guess I just want some advice on how to prevent splitting from my girlfriend so that I don't have to make that choice. I hope we can find common ground, but from what people have been saying, that's likely not going to be possible." User Ms. said, "You're not into because your parents died recently. She is being selfish and not supportive regarding their death. Even if the issue with your sister is real for her, she should have at least waited for you to mourn first. Update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my original post and I have some free time today with not much to do, so I thought I'd write an update. A lot has happened since my first post. In the end, my girlfriend, now my ex I guess, couldn't deal with the fact that I had a new priority. I admit that I wasn't the best at managing my time between the two of them, and I spent a lot more time with my sister than with my girlfriend, but I think that's understandable. My girlfriend was often on and off with my sister. One day she would be the nicest person to her, and the next day she would completely blow her off and be borderline mean. I had several conversations with her about how this needed to stop, but it would only work for maybe the rest of the week before we were back to square one. About 3 weeks ago, things erupted into a big argument. She accused me of not loving her anymore and said that I was playing favorites. I told her they're not my children to be playing favorites and that obviously for some time my sister is going to need a lot more attention since she lost her parents. In the end, she returned to her ultimatum, sister or her. At that point, I was angry because she had been mean to my sister that day. I told her she could pack her things and find a place to sleep that night. I haven't seen her since, and quite frankly, I don't really want to. We texted for a bit, essentially confirming that it's over and arranging when she can come for the rest of her belongings. As for my sister, she's doing a lot better. She doesn't stay in her room all day anymore and is slowly returning to her talkative old self. She still doesn't like being alone, but that was the case even before the accident. Since my girlfriend moved out, we've been sharing a bed for comfort. She still wakes up crying sometimes at night, so it's better when I'm there. Frankly, it's a lot more comfortable for both of us. One thing I really regret is that my sister heard our whole fight. She started apologizing to me for breaking me and my girlfriend up. I assured her it's not her fault at all. If anything, she helped me see who my girlfriend really was. My sister still goes to therapy, which has really helped a lot. She doesn't need me to be there while she falls asleep anymore and doesn't panic when I go to the shop for 15 minutes. All in all, these past 3 months have been the hardest time of my life, but also eye-opening regarding my ex's disregard for my family and for me too. Sorry there's no happy ending, I guess this is just how real life is. Edit. I would love to thank everyone for their kind words individually, but with this many responses, it's crazy. So I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who offered advice and support. You're all amazing. The overwhelming numbers have left me speechless. I can't express how it feels to know that so many people care. It's truly something else. I didn't expect that strangers on the internet could make me cry either, so once again, a huge thank you. User Clue said, "This is one of the most mature and sensible posts I have read in a long time. How very lucky your sister is to have you in her life. Keep guiding and supporting her in this exact manner and she'll be just fine." A deleted user said, "Thank you so much for being the kind of man this world needs, especially in such a tough position. Have you thought about joining a group for newly single parents or a grief support group? I think it would be beneficial for you to be around people who appreciate what you're doing and can empathize with your struggle." This next story was made in the AITAH subreddit by a user named Ornery Bookkeeper. The post is titled AITAH for refusing to go to confession so I can take communion in my brother's wedding. I have 3 siblings and we have a good relationship despite the age gaps between some of us. My older siblings are both married and so am I. The wedding in question is my younger brother's. My younger brother Luke is engaged to his girlfriend of a year, Emma. She is nice, I guess, but we have never really clicked and are just polite to each other. Something important to note is that we are all Catholic, though not particularly devout, and some of us are even lapsed. I believe this whole situation started when I met her for the first time. I look younger than Luke, and it has always been a running joke that I am truly the baby of the family. Most people who meet us assume he is older than me, but nobody has had issues with it until Emma. The day I met her, she scoffed when I said I was happy that the baby had a proper girlfriend. She has this weird thing about being the eldest in her family and refused to believe I was older than her until I showed her my ID. Since then, she has been hot and cold with me, often infantilizing me or trying to adopt a bossy attitude. I just let her be and usually ignore her since I have no time to beg for her friendship. I remain polite and civil, always including her when planning things, but not really making an effort. The family knows about it, but we shrugged it off as different personalities. Then the wedding planning started. Emma decided that I could not be in the wedding party since I was not married in a church, fine by me. Then she requested that immediate family submit their dress plans so she could ensure they fit the wedding dress code. Whatever. You see where this is going, right? I haven't gone to confession or taken communion in over a decade. If I go to mass for whatever reason, I am respectful and simply sit or stand during the rites without participating. Well, this isn't good enough for her. She insists that I need to take communion during their wedding. I said no, and she hasn't taken it well. For the most part, I avoid her as I mentioned before, but this time I wasn't going to say yes or risk an issue. I told her that taking communion requires going to confession first, which I didn't want to do. She argued that all immediate family members are doing it and that it would look bad if I didn't participate. I told her fine, then I'll just take communion in front of everyone but won't go to confession. She said if this was going to be my attitude, then I was uninvited from the wedding because I clearly wanted to ruin the day for her. I turned to my brother, thanked him, gave him a thumbs up, and went home. My family understands my reasoning and respects everyone's choices, but feels that I shouldn't have said what I did. I told them that I really don't want to go to the wedding anymore and that I don't owe Emma any explanations about my life. I only called my grandma because she heard what happened and asked me not to disrespect the church by taking communion without confession. I promised her that I wouldn't do it, and she is fine with me now. I received a text from my brother wanting to compromise, so I replied by asking if the other lapsed family members were being required to take confession too. He said no because it was only nuclear family members. I find it funny since all the others are clearly older than Emma, yet she only behaves this way with me and the younger siblings. Am I the jerk? User Beautiful Report said, you should alert the priest to her behavior. He will ensure that she stops her actions. She cannot make rules that do not exist in the church. I recommend sending a quick email to him and letting her deal with the consequences of her own actions. To this, OP said, I actually considered it, but I don't think I will, since my grandma might be doing it herself. She is lapsed but doesn't want me to be disrespectful. However, she knows the priest who will be officiating and is not really happy with all the drama. User Bigot said NTA. However, demand an apology from her or you still won't go. As an atheist, I have been requested to attend various religious ceremonies. I generally just stand silently in the back and have an inner monologue about the proceedings. She wanted to make your personal decision her responsibility and she can go away. Tell your brother you want a sincere apology or you won't attend the wedding. None of that insincere, half-hearted sorry and walking away. Update. Things have progressed, but I wouldn't call any of it positive. I would like to clarify something I keep seeing in the comments. I won't request a special blessing or wait in line for communion. It isn't about the blessing or the compromise, but rather about being singled out. I often stay quiet or accept a general family blessing when we go to weddings, etc. I have no issue with compromises. My issue is with Emma and her ridiculous behavior. I don't know why she has this thing against me. I look young, but not like a teenager or a child, obviously. She has 2 younger sisters and is very authoritative with them. I have witnessed her being very my way or the highway with younger people, so she definitely has issues. The confrontation from my last post was on Tuesday, and today we had lunch at my grandma's. I think you should also know that my brothers have a tricky relationship. They are not as close with each other as they are with other siblings. My older brother Robert is very no-nonsense and has never been a fan of Emma, but he didn't think he should intervene because Luke is an adult and capable of navigating his own relationships. All of this will be relevant, I promise. We visit grandma often since she lives by herself, and we truly enjoy her company. Today, we were all there because she is already over this drama. After a lunch that was more like snacking, to be honest, she asked us all to clear the air. Emma continued her rant about me being disrespectful and claimed that she was asking the bare minimum from me. My grandma asked her why she had no issue with Robert not taking communion, and Emma replied that she was his elder and that her reasons were more substantial than what she described as a tantrum in my case. She also repeated that she was asking this of all the siblings and that I was the only one being difficult with her tiny request. This is where everything crumbled for her. I mentioned in the comments that Robert is also lapsed and was already exhausted by this situation. He asked Emma why she had no issues with him not taking communion, and she looked like a child caught in a lie. She didn't have a proper answer. Robert then asked her if she even knew why he and Grandma became lapsed. She shook her head and looked at Luke for help. Luke, on the other hand, was staring angrily at Robert and me, but said nothing. Robert explained to Emma that he was the reason Grandma became lapsed. When Robert was a teenager, he came out as gay and was very worried about our grandparents' reaction since they were very active in the Catholic Church. Grandma felt awful about it, especially after speaking with the then priest of her church. That priest was very old school and told her that Robert was committing sins, going to hell, and needed to find his way, the whole 9 yards. Grandma didn't take that well. She simply stopped going to church and started spending that time with her grandchildren. Over the years, she began reconnecting with the community, but decided she was done taking the sacraments. She respects parts of the church, but can't fully reconcile with it. Emma was a bit confused since Robert is married to a woman, and he explained that he is bisexual and ended up with a woman just as he could have ended up with a man. He also commented that they are not married in the church, but that didn't matter to her like it mattered when it came to me. He asked her directly what her problem with me was. Long story short, she said I was rude from the beginning and kept treating Luke poorly. Oh, and I also was very snarky about looking younger than her. Crickets. She is a beautiful, successful woman, so I still don't understand her obsession, but it seems like she wants people to see that I respect her and what she says. I just started laughing. She started crying and saying I turned my grandmother against her. My grandmother told her to stop blaming people for her being a negative person and that she was always going to side with me over her. Luke got upset at that and asked her why she was not supporting him. She simply said she doesn't support him being a lapdog for a crazy woman. More was said, but nothing was truly resolved. I was kind of invited again, but declined going. My grandmother is undecided if she even wants to go at all. My older siblings told Luke they will go to the ceremony if he seeks couples therapy or at least individual therapy. My parents are having headaches and now dislike Emma so much they can't hide it. Oh, and yes, my grandmother spoke with the priest and he wants them to do extra premarital counseling or he won't officiate. I hope they don't get married, but he is old enough to derail his life if he wants. I thank you for letting me vent, and my grandmother loved the Pope joke. Update 2. My brother has gone too far, and I have decided to be done with him. He made our grandma cry, and I think he has permanently damaged many of his relationships. I want to mention that some of my cousins and other family members thought I was just being stubborn and creating drama, but now there is no longer just my side or Emma's side. Maybe he always felt this way, but the issue he has with Robert is absolutely ridiculous. He was so upset with what grandma said about him being Emma's lapdog that he called her to discuss it. I was obviously not present for the conversation, but grandma told me what happened and Luke confirmed it. He told her that it was unfair of me to ask Robert for help since he was her favorite grandchild and would get her to side with me no matter how wrong I was. He also claimed that many of the cousins believed this and that it was obvious since she even left her religion for him. He asserted that the other LGBTQ members of the family doubted whether she would do the same for them. In response, Grandma explained to Luke and then called every single one of her grandchildren to ask how they felt and to clarify parts of the situation we didn't know. She shared that when Robert came out and she spoke with the old priest, he hinted at knowing places to straighten Robert out. Grandma had heard horror stories about those places, as had Robert, and they both spoke with my parents together about that not being an option at all. My parents never intended to send Robert there and are very casual Catholics, but Grandma wanted to cover all bases just in case. I was told that Grandma sounded like she had been crying on the phone, and after the first couple of calls, going from oldest to youngest, the group chat started blowing up. Robert is livid, our LGBTQ cousins are livid and say Luke lied, and even the cousins who were telling me to stop being stubborn are now angry. By the time I was up for my call, I was already on my way to Grandma's. 2 of my cousins were already there, and the youngest one, Sarah, was ready to literally fight Luke. For a bit of levity, Sarah is about 35 centimeters shorter than Luke, and the image of her swinging at him made me laugh a bit. When she asked if I was making fun of her, I explained the whole mental image of her trying to hit him, and she admitted it was kind of funny. What I didn't tell her is that I would love to slap some sense into Luke. My grandma has been through so much in her life, and this is not what we want for her. She looked puffy-faced and kept asking everybody if they truly felt unloved by her, saying she would do everything for any of us. She explained how Robert was the oldest grandchild, but that didn't mean she loved the rest of us any less. She is a strong woman, but I think something inside her broke a little at the thought that she had hurt her grandchildren. It was a complete mess, a big one, and I am just so done with Luke. My parents have been passive regarding the situation so far because I asked them to be, but after they heard what happened, they told Luke that they need time away from him. Robert is simply disgusted and has decided not to speak with him anymore, which he communicated through the cousin group chat. Luke's response was that this is why Emma's help in managing all of us would be so beneficial if we just let her. He also added that Robert never cared for him or anyone, really, and that he just tries to be the center of attention all the time. He cited Robert's coming out, his announcement that he was going to marry a woman, and the birth of his child as examples. It was ridiculous. Robert came out when Luke was a toddler, and for many years, only our parents and grandparents knew. He announced he was going to marry his now wife through a text, but didn't interfere with or take attention away from anyone else. His child was born 4 months before Luke's graduation, and apparently that was a big issue for Luke that he never commented on. Maybe I am biased, maybe I am selfish like Emma claims, but I call bullshit on his tantrum. Every single one of the cousins has been helped, babysat, tutored, or gotten out of trouble by Robert. You name it. He isn't perfect, but he isn't the conniving jerk Luke is claiming he is. Maybe Luke has always felt inadequate and we didn't notice. Maybe this was his last-ditch effort. Maybe Emma has manipulated him so much that he can't come back. It doesn't matter anymore. If he does marry Emma, I wish him the best. If he doesn't, I hope he goes to therapy. Regardless of what he decides, he has burned so many bridges and hurt so many people that I don't see this resolving anytime soon. For now, I will focus on my grandma and making her feel better. I feel extremely guilty because it was Emma's situation with me that opened this can of worms. I know I shouldn't feel this way, but it's hard not to. Final update. I want to start by saying that Grandma is in better spirits now. I am overwhelmed by the amount of people supporting her and very grateful for it, even if it's online. I have talked about this on some chats and direct messages, but please know that the situation with Emma is not about her being parentified or her family being strict Catholics, it's just her being herself. They were already going to get premarital counseling and an extra session was added. Oh, and all cousins don't live in the same city or town. Some are a bit farther than others, but we keep in touch through the group chat. The reason for the update is mainly to let people know that Grandma is okay, her health is fine, and she had a blast with my cousin Sarah. I also want to update what has happened with the cousins and the maternal side of our family. Some of our paternal cousins from Grandma's side have relented and feel a bit bad about excluding Luke from things. The compromise was met. He can be invited to everything, just don't force people to interact. These cousins are mainly on the older side and have soft spots for the younger ones. My youngest cousin, Sarah, said she was okay with it all, but wanted them to keep him away from her since she can't stand him anymore. Our maternal side was a complete mess because of course we needed one. Some were very upset, but others told me I should try to understand where he was coming from. My mom was the one who told them everything, and some told her she was at fault for making Robert the star of the family. This was so uncalled for and brought some issues to our family, particularly when one of my maternal cousins asked me if I could behave enough if seated at the same table as Luke for his wedding. It makes us doubt ourselves, but really this is a cousin that Robert has bailed out of near bankruptcy twice, and he's the problem. I haven't said much about my sister Lucy since she voiced nothing different before. She was always very close to Luke and even had a great relationship with Emma before the debacle. She decided to stay out of it because she was so disappointed. While she was never made to babysit or anything like that, she was always so into Luke since he was her baby brother. She loved him the most, and I know that because she literally told me when I was a kid. We have a good relationship now because her kids are my buddies, but it was rough for a while before that. She was upset about the whole thing, but when our maternal family, or at least a part of it, started excusing Luke, she lost it. She is a very calm person, the type you don't expect a bad word from, but she lost it, and I think it was the last straw that broke the camel's back for Luke. She sent a massive message about what has been happening, detailing every single thing and daring people to come at her if they disagreed. She made sure to include every nasty comment, every bad word, and every eye roll. She sent it to so many people because she was tired of the half-information telephone game. She is upset with me because my refusals led to this situation, and she said she knows she shouldn't feel this way, but she needs time to sort out her feelings, so she is not speaking with me right now. My parents decided they were out of the wedding and told Luke he is on his own. There was never a monetary issue. They were willing to contribute, but both Luke and Emma are pretty well off, so there was no need for that. Now, to what maybe most people want to know, and the only conflict I'm interested in anymore, my grandma is feeling better. Having Sarah with her has been very positive. It was lovely to see the eldest and youngest members of our family so in tune, but then again, they have always been close. She requested that Sarah invite Luke to her birthday party in December, and after a lot of back and forth, he is going to be invited. We will see if he comes or not. As a small aside, I showed my grandma the joke about the knife, sword, etc., and she was so giddy. Thank you. I mentioned before that Robert would pick up Sarah if she needed it. That is still true. What I might not have mentioned is that she, of course, gets a weird lecture from him and an even weirder discussion about how he rates certain drugs. As I said, he is no saint, but he is not a jerk either. Lastly, yes, he has photos with my sister and me on the newborn wall. People love to take pictures of him holding the new family members, and he collected them and put them together when he got his own house.